Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Ask Rob and Rob show, the show where you give us questions and we give you answers. This week is absolutely no different. We've got two wonderful questions coming up. But before we get there, Rob, can you remind everyone how they can get involved?
Certainly can. All you've got to do is give us a call on 013 808 0035. That's 013 808 0035. Or if that's a bit old school for you, go to propertyhub.net/ask and do it via your laptop instead. Either way, make sure you get your questions in, just like our first questioner today, Mike.
Hi, good morning, Rob and Rob. Mike here from London. Love what you're doing with the podcast. After maybe 4 or 5 months of listening, I've jumped in and managed to get myself a 2-bed at the Liverpool Eclipse development. So a big thank you to you and your team for helping me with that one. It's been my first investment. It's pretty terrifying, but also I'm very excited. I really recommend this podcast to anyone who commutes. I think it's a perfect way to leverage your time when you're out and about and on the road. I'm a big fan of lifelong learning, so I thank you for providing me with that as a resource. I really recommend it to anyone that's interested in property and investment going forward. So, right, my question, joint ventures. So can you please explain more about the benefits and how people typically get the ball rolling? To add context, I'm asking because after securing my first investment, I'm thinking it might be a good way of moving to a second investment without having to wait too long to build capital. I'm thinking, many hands make light work. I'm also interested to know if you can work a joint venture with, say, a limited company and an individual, so two of those coming together. Any insight, any knowledge or tips that you could share would be much appreciated. Again, Mike in London, and thanks again.
Mike, thank you for your question and for your kind words. Really appreciate it. Congratulations on your first investment. Liverpool, great choice. It's a city that Rob and I have talked about a lot, and rightly so. I think you'll do very well from that one. But let's help you do very well in the future as well. So you're considering joint ventures. Now, joint ventures mean different things to different people. But the most common understanding of a joint venture is two people or more working together and sharing skills and capital. So what happens most of the time is somebody will have some money, somebody else will have experience, and you work together to invest. Now, in this case, Mike, it sounds like you haven't got the funds, so you would be the experience, and you would need to find somebody else with money, and you can work together to build investments up. Sounds easy. It isn't, though. A lot of property experts out there say, you should do joint ventures, as a way of getting going with property. But the people they're advising this to often have little or no experience. And if you have little or no experience and you're trying to find someone with capital, well, if I had capital, I probably wouldn't want to work with you, just being completely honest. And I think that would be the case for most people. So as a concept, it's attractive to somebody who hasn't got funds. But the reality of being able to execute that strategy is slim, being completely honest with you. Now, you may be looking at this from a different angle and seeing a joint venture as just combining funds and being able to get your second investment a little bit faster that way. That's great, again, in theory, but I wouldn't go into it lightly. Working with somebody, even if it's friends or family, can be difficult. You may be very much aligned in the beginning, but in 5, 10, 15 years' time, are you still going to be aligned? People's lives change. Your life circumstances today could be very different in 10 years' time, and that's hard to plan for. So if you do go down that route, have a very clear agreement up front what you're going to do with that investment. When are you going to sell? When are you going to refinance? And what are you not allowed to do? Get those agreements up front. Get them written down and into a contract. Doesn't matter if they're one of your best friends. Doesn't matter if they're a close family member. Get it in a contract. That will help mediate any future disputes. But you've got to be careful. If it does go wrong and it does go sour, even with a written agreement, a relationship can be damaged over these things. So I've seen it work, but I've also seen it not work multiple times. So tread carefully. You may be best just holding off, saving, and going alone. The choice is yours now, Mike. At least you know fully what your options are, and you can go into one of those options a little more educated.
Okay, let's have a listen to our second question. This one comes in from James.
Hi, Rob and Rob. My name's James Smith. I'd just like to say thank you for your free content that you've been putting out. It's been invaluable throughout my property journey. My question is, what do you think is a safe loan-to-value percentage
I'm aware that this will change for everyone as it depends heavily on their attitude to risk. But do you think having a portfolio sitting at 75% LTV is a risky move? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Thank you, James. This is an easy one to answer. No, I would not say that 75% loan to value is a risky move. I would say that's pretty standard and shouldn't give you a lot to worry about. I'll explain why that's the case. 75% loan to value means that for you to be in negative equity, so owning more than the property is worth, the market would have to fall by more than 25%. That, of course, can happen. It has happened in the past, but it's not the kind of thing that happens more than once per cycle, if that. And if it does, then pretty much everybody is going to be in the same boat. So you don't need to be too worried about your lender repossessing the property, because they're going to have to repossess hundreds of thousands of properties and they'll have no desire to do that because they'd have all the hassle of doing that and then have to sell them at a loss. And that's a pattern that we saw last time round. Now, if you're able to get a higher loan to value, say you could get 85%, 90%, for some reason you were able to borrow at a particularly high rate, then it's much more likely that you could end up in negative equity. And because you would be more highly leveraged than most, it's more likely that your individual property would be a target for a lender looking to get their money back. 75% though is pretty safe. The thing to really focus on more than the loan to value, I would say, is the cash flow that the property is generating. Because it's if you start missing mortgage payments that you're really going to start getting into trouble. So as long as you've got a property that's rentable, it's not going to sit empty for a long period of time, there's not likely to be high unexpected expenses, and you've got a bit of headroom, so if interest rates go up, you're still able to make those payments, then you're probably in a pretty good place. And Rob, James has to bear in mind as well that the chances of him leveraging to 75% and then the market crashing the next day is pretty unlikely.
Yeah, it is unlikely. And that should give you comfort, because you're 75% the day you buy that property or that last property. But as the market goes up over time, your actual loan to value against your property or your portfolio is decreasing. The amount of equity that you have on each property is increasing. So you may find by the next crash that you're actually only leveraged to 67%. And that is a pretty chunky buffer. So while it's great that you're thinking about this and you're not burying your head in the sand about the future and what will happen, remember, we expect a lot of boom years ahead and absolutely take advantage of this. But if you are leveraging each property at 75% at the point of purchase, you should be more than fine.
So another 2 questions dispatched. Thank you to James and to Mike for sending those in. Make sure you get yours in. Give us a call on 013 808 0035 and we'll make sure that we're back here next week to get them answered. But before that, we will of course see you for the Property Podcast on Thursday. So we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.